Almost 2 years since Alabama high school student Natalie Holloway disappeared on the island of Aruba, authorities now say there are new developments that could blow this case wide open. Now, police brought in over 20 forensic experts to search the home of Joran Vandersloot, the prime suspect and the last person known to have seen Natalie, even though the search is over and authorities aren't saying what they found. Now, they indicate the case is far from closed. Joining us now, former LAPD detective, Fox News contributor, rare in studio appearance. And Pierce, Mark Furman, how you doing, buddy?
Good.
It seems odd to a lot of us watching this from the outside, considering there was so much attention on Joran in the beginning, now to go back and finally really start investigating the house. Why didn't they do it earlier?
Well, we saw even when we were watching it over a year ago, the Netherlands were really slow in responding, and they sent, if I remember right, they sent a bunch of Marines for a land search on the island, and I just never really understood that. But you look at how much time was wasted on the Kalpoe brothers, and they bobbled the vehicle search and the forensic search in the vehicle. They wasted a lot of time there. They wasted a lot of time with Joran. And the thing that I was always focusing on is the time lapse between when they say that they last saw Natalie and when they were at home with the father, the conversations that went on between the Kalpoe brothers, Joran, and Paul Vandersloot.
Do you, look, you always have very good instincts and a really good gut. Where would you be looking now? Who do you suspect in all of this? Do you still think it's Joran?
Well, you know, suspect is a tough one on this. It's 2 years, and it seems like you should be able to turn over all the stones, but we have 20 detectives and forensic specialists from the Netherlands that are in the yard. So they're either operating on old information that was never followed up and they want to make sure, or they want to go there, or they have new information from somebody that was never talked to or somebody that's come.
Think it's more likely that it would be that?
I think it would be more likely the latter, yes. Yeah. I think that there's something there.
At this, it would be beyond sad that if there was compelling evidence that could be found in the backyard, that they hadn't searched it up until this point. When it would, considering he was a prime suspect for such a long period of time, that would seem like a basic place to start.
It would, and I think it should have been done the first 12 hours. But when you look at Paul Vandersloot was trying to become an officer of the court. I believe he was trying to be a judge.
Yes.
So when you have that kind of person that knows the legal system, then you'd think he'd want to cooperate more rather than less. So why not simply offer to allow them to do what would be in question?
Does the fact that he lied early on, meaning Joran lied, about being the last person to be with her on the beach, that any time somebody lies, like every time Alan lies to me...
When was that?
I'm kidding. But it's, in all seriousness, when people lie to me, I lose all trust. Is that a...
Yes.
In this particular case, he said, well, I didn't want people to think I was the last person to be with her.
Yes, it's absolutely, because the one lie is the most important question. Once you lie about that, it's going to come back, and when it does come back, then you have another layer of lies.
Can you tell when people are lying?
I'd like to think I can a lot of the time.
What do you look for?
Well, it's...
like if you started grilling me, I'd be...
Well, it's an uncomfortable nature that they have with the question and the way their body language, and an uncomfortable way that they answer. Sometimes a pat answer, something that sounds rehearsed, especially when you have two people in two rooms that come up with the same answer. That's a rehearsed response to a question. So you can kind of feel, and of course, if you already know the answer to the question, which is ideal, then you know they're lying, and then you can let them get away with it, and you can let them lie more, and then you go back.
It's amazing to me that you have to have a pretty good memory if you're going to start lying, too. You know, when you really think about it, you gotta, and that was one of the problems early on, and maybe one of the reasons the Kalpoe brothers, were under such suspicion, because there was the thought that they had all together concocted this story.
Well, we have to remember that the Kalpoe brothers and Joran Vandersloot was talking to Paul Vandersloot at some point early in the morning hours, and there was conversation.
That's
the father. There was conversations there. Is somebody taking care of? Is somebody directing? Is somebody giving advice? And I think this is what we're possibly missing.
All right, with that Vandersloot, though, here's what I don't get. If he lied about where he left her, turns out he left her on the beach. If you're going to spend time with somebody, you leave them in a possible inebriated state on a beach and just disappear, go on your way?
Well,
that doesn't make any sense.
I think it's absurd, because you don't have one male, you've got three, and then you have a confusion. Was she in the car on the way back? Wasn't she? And then you have a real confusion. We dropped her off at the hotel.
Yeah, and is there any way to find out which of those stories is true at this point, or is it so far gone or so far beyond the time frame that we can't ever get answers to that question.
I think the most true is the one closest to what the truth probably is, and that she was left on the beach. The part that we don't have as the truth is what condition she was when they left her.
And why would somebody leave her on the beach? What would be the motivation?
There wouldn't be one. The motivation is you're trying to get away and distance yourself from something that could be very bad for you. And that's why everybody does that.
So they're in the yard now, and they've got dogs, they've got a jackhammer, they've got all other kinds of equipment. Do they expect, honestly, that something is going to turn up in that venue that hasn't up until now?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. Now, the jackhammer. When you have a jackhammer, it means that between the time of her disappearance and today, that there has been fresh concrete put down. And that would
Do we know
indicate
that to be true?
Well, when you have a jackhammer, it could be to move boulders, it could be to break concrete.
It could be old concrete that's always been there.
It could be, but to get underneath the concrete, you would probably need to pour new concrete. So I'm kind of wondering if the information could be, and let's not jump to conclusions, we're always thinking bodies. But they could be looking for decomposed material or clothes or an item that's a
or some kind of evidence that would lead them to
something that cannot be there and account for it.
In terms of why now, there is a statute of limitations that runs out on May 30th. And that, according to local law, means that beyond that, if they don't convict by that point, I guess then everybody's off the hook, right?
I think that would be true, but, the statute of limitations for murder, I mean, how absurd is this? 2 years, the statute of limitations for murder. I mean, the place to go to murder somebody is obviously Aruba. I mean, it's crazy. Stall them for 2 years.
Mark, thanks for being here. Good to see you in person. Thank you very much. We check with Greta Van Sussner. She's here to tell us what's coming up on the record at 10 Eastern. Greta.
Al, we're going to pick up on Natalie Holloway. We're going to go live to Aruba. Plus, we have Ann Nicole Smith tonight. Prince Harry, Prince von Anhalt is in the news. That and much more. All those topics tonight. Back to you.
And coming up next, Dr.